and welcome to this little supplementary video on recording equipment necessary for teaching online. This is a supplementary video for the book that I've just released called How to Take Your Skills Online, exploring the procedures necessary to implement an online course in the performing arts, and in my case Tai Chi. So there are four general categories of equipment that we're looking at here. Predominantly a camera, and secondly some form of lighting, third stability, that is something that will support the camera, not minimize shaking and movement, and fourthly sound equipment. So let's go over those four briefly, and as I mentioned in the book, it can be done on a relatively small budget. You don't have to invest an awful lot, and probably you will already have some of this equipment to start with. Okay, so let's start with the most important category of those four, which is the camera. Now I'm looking straight into my front-facing camera on my smartphone. It's a iPhone 6S, now 2.5 years old, and the front-facing camera is good enough for me to record at a resolution that people can view back on reasonable size screens. Now this is important given that more and more platforms now are asking for a minimum resolution of your videos so that they can be played back on TVs, on bigger screens than smartphones. So I mentioned front and rear face cameras. Most smartphones now have a camera on the front and on the back, and I'm using the front one, and the reason I'm using the front one, which generally has a lower resolution than the back camera, is because I can actually see where I am within the framework of the screen. Whereas if I was on the other side, I wouldn't have a clue what I'm recording, and I'm hopefully still within the framework of the camera, but I don't ever know unless I had someone controlling the camera all the time, of which I can't employ a camera person, so I'm doing it on myself. Given that's probably your situation too, you'll want to use the front-facing camera for a couple of reasons. One I've already mentioned. The second reason is a software reason that I'll touch upon later, which is about teleprompt software, so that you're explaining, describing actions. You will have text appearing on one side of the screen that you can read in order to ensure that your message is given in the most clear and precise means possible. Now today I'm not using teleprompting software, I'm just talking off the top of my head. As you've probably guessed, it's a bit all over the place. But if I were giving a lesson on an aspect of Taoist philosophy, let's say, then I would want to have written that first and had that come up on the screen as I'm being recorded. Now you can't do that on the rear camera, you can only do that on the front-facing camera with the software, which is probably one of the apps that I'll talk about later. There's not really much else other than that times I've used in my online Tai Chi course two cameras at the same time, and that's quite a good technique because it can show you from different angles what it is that you're trying to teach. Very useful for the students. So what I do is I tend to use either someone else's phone that they don't mind me using, or a tablet, and then set the tablet up somewhere over to one side, so that I'm being recorded front face and to the side at the same time. And then I'll grab both of those images, take them into my editor and look at them both and edit between the two. So that can be quite a useful thing for a student to have access to, seeing you from different angles. If you read my book, you'll also come across many examples of different apps that will enable you to walk around for the viewer to touch the screen and shift your angle so that you can be seen from different aspects. I mention a few in the book. Fuse is one of them, Boomerang's another one for repetition. So check those out if you think you're going to be needing to give very fine details or customization of angles for movements. I mentioned the teleprompt software. I'll just very quickly give you two recommendations of teleprompt software that you might be interested in. One is called uPrompty, and that's free on the App Store, and the other is Teleprompter. Most teleprompting apps tend to be quite expensive. uPrompty is free, and it actually does everything that I needed. What does it need to do? It needs to be able to import text files from somewhere else on your phone that you've already edited the text. It needs to portray the text in a small column to one side of the screen. You don't want it in the middle, you want it at one side, and that side should be where the camera is recording you. The camera does not record you in the center of the screen here. The camera normally records to one side or one corner. So you'll need to align the text to face there, otherwise it always looks like you're reading over here somewhere or over there. So 2 good tips for teleprompting software. It tends to be quite expensive. I generally have not found any that are any good, certainly not worth the money that they're asking for, which is why I've ended up using the free one called uPrompty. I mentioned previously lighting. When I was first recording, I purchased 2 professional recording lights that stood on tripods with big covers on and special bright lights, and it was to minimize any shadows and reflections and give an equal lighting, and it's very nice. And unfortunately I did that when I was living in Spain, and I've left them out there in Spain in my house out there, so I haven't got them here in the UK, which I really need them because it's dark and grey a lot of the time, and I could really do with the light here, whereas in Spain I never used them because it was always bright and light. So, but anyway, you can get away with it. Look at me, I've just got 2 light bulbs on at the moment, and that's it in this room. You can use just those. Most of the time if you're out, it's not going to be any good for you dragging that lighting system around. But if you are in dark rooms, you are going to want to look for something more than just the overhead light switch. It's okay for this, but if you're recording with greater clarity and much more dark environment, then you will want some sort of spotlight that diffuses it and avoids the shadow aspect that looks so bad on many videos. So that was lighting. This is one of those areas that you really haven't given much thought to, but let me tell you now that the greatest investment I made when I was doing my course was to buy a tripod, one of those that extend the legs up, goes to about 1.5 meters in height and enables you to adjust and move around. So for example, my phone at the moment is sitting on the tripod. It costs about £20. It enables me to have it at different heights. It also enables me to turn, you see, and keep everything on one level, and that enables me to do this, which I couldn't do by hand. It would be almost impossible to do that by hand. And to avoid that shakiness and instability, you really need something that doesn't move and is very stable, and a 3-leg tripod is perfect for that. It's something I've dragged across countries, up and down mountains to lakes. Always been the most important tool I've got for when recording myself, especially using the front-facing camera, because you're far away in the distance and you can still see yourself within those limits. You've got yourself framed perfectly, and off you go. You're doing these movements and you can ensure that there's no shaking and that you stay within the frame. Second thing is something like this. If you haven't got a tripod and you want a cheap version, then this little thing comes from a Tiger store for about €4 or €5. I bought mine in Spain, and it enables you to use it as a mini tripod or clip it onto things and carry your camera around with you. So it might be a branch of a tree or a railing or a park bench. So you can get round the expense of a full tripod by using this little thing with these little funny legs that move about as a cheap alternative. But if you can afford it, go for the tripod. It is a bit better. Finally, there's the old selfie stick, which I fought getting one for a long time because I couldn't see myself ever wanting one. But actually they can be quite useful for small narrations when you're outside and you haven't got time to set up a tripod and you want to be more spontaneous. You can really just slip your phone into there, extend it out of range, and talk to the camera, giving you a little bit more space than rather just holding it up and taking a photograph. This was from Poundland for £1. Sound, all important, all crucial. I bought When I began the online course, I invested in a microphone, and this was meant to be a good portable microphone, the Rode Smart Lav. Strange name. However, it's this. You can probably hear me speaking straight into the phone now. This is me speaking into the microphone. Small lapel microphone that fits onto your clothing. So why would you invest in this? Because the quality isn't that much difference, as you probably noticed when I took the phone off. I agree. If I was to start again, I probably wouldn't buy it. It cost about £40. It's okay if I take it up to my mouth, but then you get a lot of bad sounds when it comes too close with the certain consonant sounds. Would it be better to get a desktop microphone and a more professional setup? Probably, but it's not going to be very convenient when you're out and about. So yes, it'll get you by. No, it's not the perfect answer, so look around to see what else there is. I couldn't find much else. Not very happy with this, but what can you do? Okay, finally, software. Once you've taken your tripod out, you've recorded yourself, you've got the lights, the microphone, the teleprompter software, everything's out there, you've got it all back, you've got it from your phone, what you do with it there. It's all stored on your phone. You've got to upload it to your laptop or to your desktop. What software editing suite are you going to use? Well, I've got a 6-year-old MacBook Air, just about struggling still, and I still use it for all my video editing work. It came bundled with something called iMovie. Many of you may know this. It's free. It's bundled with Numax, and it's a pretty intuitive, basic video editor. It's now pretty dated. I'd love to see it updated a little. At least the credits and the titles are horrendous. They're from a prehistoric era. The effects are just nonsense, just not even worth looking at. But it does do a couple of things fairly good that a lot of other software still can't do well. Firstly, the multi-tracking of sound, so it enables you to run background music as well as speech on top of that. You lay these on top of each other. That's fairly intuitive to do. And secondly, video overlapping, so you can have one video laid on top of another, so it fades in and out or duplicates itself and then blends over. Those are quite nice things to do if you want to shift from one scene to another. I'm sure it's the same with most basic video editing software, but I don't really want to fork out for Final Cut Pro. iMovie does the job, even though it's not very nice to use. It's there. What else can I say about it? You export the stuff in the resolution that you want, upload it to the platform of your choice. So that's a sort of very quick, rough summary of the equipment I used. The whole budget, I would put aside about £100 to get everything that you need, provided you've obviously got a phone to start with. If you haven't already got a smartphone, then that's going to increase your budget considerably after that, but about £100 will cover most of the other things that you'll need. There are ways you can get around a lot of this stuff. Do a search on YouTube, backlit spotlights behind your back to give more ambience in your videos. So use this video as a springboard, go out and have a look online, see what else is out there. YouTube's a fascinating resource for this sort of information. One last thing, my book, How to Take Your Skills Online. This is the equipment I use pretty much, as I've shown you today. Nothing else. It was only that produced all those 120 odd videos that you've seen, or hopefully will have seen if you've read the book and followed the links. If you've got any questions, leave a comment in the box below this video. Drop by the website teapotmonk.com, leave a comment there, contact me on any of the social media platforms. Okay, that's it. Good luck with your project.